I guess we'll just start with your full name, spell your last name, just so I have that right.
All right, my name is Eric James Molitor. The last name is Molitor.
All right. And how old are you right now?
39.
As you know, my name's Eric as well. Um, can you just initially just talk to me about maybe your upbringing and how did you live in Cadillac most of your life, or?
Yep, born and raised in Cadillac. I've moved out a few times, but I always end up coming back. It's home. So upbringing is pretty typical American upbringing. It was a single parent family, so my mom raised 3 kids. I'm the middle child. I have an older sister and a younger brother. Grew up most of my life on a hobby farm. We didn't necessarily have animals, but it was pretty cool. We had woods and a barn and whatnot, so we could always play in all that. Lived right by a lake, so always being outside. And
Were you like religious growing up, or did you have any leanings that way?
yes, Baptist.
Okay. And how did that factor into your life as you grew up?
I think that probably the largest benefit, me being raised with a religious background, is it does help not only instill moral values, but also concretes them throughout your life. You know what I mean? Like just what's right and wrong, and it really just sticking to that, and not necessarily because you can get in trouble or anything like that, just because it's the right thing to really do. I really do believe that religion promotes that more than just a good mindset. A good mindset's good, but the religion really backs that up.
Okay. Did you have a leaning politically growing up, or currently, or?
So honestly, I did not get into politics until it's probably going on 5-6 years ago now.
Okay.
I did not believe that it affected me, and to me it was boring and annoying, and it just seemed like another thing for people to always argue about. And then once I started getting into it, now I get it.
So I'm assuming you went to high school in Wexford County?
I did not go to high school.
Okay.
I was expelled from school for halfway through 8th grade.
Okay.
And I ended up going for my GED. I believe I was 17 or 18 when I did that.
How, going back to early 2020, like, how did the pandemic affect your life as you recall, the early 2020s when that came to our shores in the United States?
It was annoying because I had to wear a mask into places. Other than that, I didn't believe the hype that was out there anyways, and even if you do get sick, like, what do, man? You cannot stay away from it. You wear your mask and use your stuff. You go into a store and touch something somebody else touched. It don't matter. You got it now. You know what I mean? So I wasn't really too worried about it. It was more of an annoyance. It was weird that everything was shutting down. That was really disconcerting, especially in a local area like this where you have a lot of smaller shops. So I guess for my community, I was a little more worried. But
what type of engagements did you have on social media during that period of time?
What do you mean by engagements?
Well, I guess engagements, I get, like, there was a lot of militia groups, I guess, that were allowed and permitted to be on Facebook, for instance, at that time. And then, closer to the summer and fall, Facebook started eliminating and calling all these Facebook groups for militias and the like off of their forum. And were you engaged with different militias and stuff on Facebook or other social media?
So I was in contact with people in militias and militia group pages, but I was not a part of them. When I first started learning about militias, I was a part of militias, but then for me, it was just easier to work by myself alongside these guys. I didn't really want to be clicked up with anybody, if that makes sense.
So can you give me your overall opinion and take on how you feel about law enforcement throughout your life and even currently?
Yes. All right. So as far as law enforcement goes, we need law enforcement. I can't say anything against that. I wish that they were not militarized. That is a concern. I do not like that they are used like goons. So here's the thing that people need to understand about law enforcement. It's in the name, law enforcement. They don't get to dictate what they do and don't agree with. It doesn't matter what the personal opinions are. You do your fucking job, man. That's it. Like when I go to work, I don't get to say, oh, I don't feel like wearing my gloves today. You pay me to do it, man. So I'm going to do it whether I like it or not. Law enforcement has to enforce laws. I get that. So I don't have a problem with them doing their job. What I have a problem with is these laws being passed that force them to look like the bad guys. Now, there are police who do have complexes, obviously, and we would all assume to call them bad cops. You know, they get physical with people, they sexually assault people, they run drugs, they plant evidence. And so I am 100% against cops that do stuff like that. Judges, lawyers, I don't give a crap. If you're in a position of power, you have no right to do anything against anybody below you. And if you do, you need to be held to the highest standard. Now, with that being said, these good cops who know about this stuff but don't say anything, they're also not good cops, man. Because if you're law enforcement, you see somebody breaking the law, I don't care what uniform or badge they have, they're a criminal. So do your job. And you see these guys get railroaded if they do try to go against their people. And it's really sad. So that's part of the system we should change for their benefit, which of course benefits us. But to answer your question, I guess, rabbit hole in here.
No, that's all right.
I'm very pro law enforcement. I want it to get back to being simple though. Don't pull me over because I don't have a fucking seatbelt on. My safety. Now, for the record, I do wear my seatbelt because I choose to, not because I'm afraid of being pulled over. I actually feel safe. I know the stats. I'm good.
So you believe the science on seatbelts?
I do, because you don't go through the windshield as much with them. So there's that.
All right. So did you go into any of the armed protests here in Michigan throughout the spring and summer of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. Like which ones did you go to?
I've been to a couple of Lansing ones. So the anti-lockdown protests, the ones where that barber from Owasso, I can't remember the gentleman's name now. So I actually went to Owasso. I've been to Lansing. I went to Grand Rapids ones. Pretty much anytime that I can get involved and get out there, because that's how this stuff changes, is by the individual getting out. You know, you get enough individuals, look what we can do together. So, you know, as one person, I just tried.
Okay. And you mentioned the anti-lockdown protests, and specifically in Lansing, like there was Operation Gridlock, where a bunch of vehicles like crammed the streets in Lansing in mid-April, I think April 15th of 2020. Did you go to that one? Okay. There was another one on April 30th where some people allege there was a storming of the Capitol with a bunch of people with guns. I don't hold that position because I've seen the evidence that's come out afterwards about how they let people in with their guns on that day. Do you recall that protest, or did you?
I believe I was there for that one.
Okay. Did you go inside the Capitol that day?
Probably use the bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I've just been I've observed a lot of the video footage from that specific day myself, and like William Null, for instance, who's a co-defendant in your case. He was up on the balcony of the Senate live streaming himself for like 45 minutes. Have you ever seen any of that footage?
No.
Okay. Did you know them at that point?
I've known of them. So the Null brothers and the Michigan Liberty Militia is one of the bigger names, I guess you could say, because they do a lot of personal security for these get-togethers. Even though they're not licensed to do it, they would go out there, and not just to protect like the people during the protest, but like the opposition too. So that's how I know of them, because they always put themselves out there as, you know, just the protectors of people. So that's how I knew them.
Did you know Phil Robinson, who is their I guess leader?
We've talked before.
Okay.
We've shared a few sentences here and there, and I've seen him at one training.
Okay.
And then other than that, I've seen him at some protests.
What is your overall impression of the armed rallies that occurred in Michigan, for instance, in 2020?
Big fan of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was another one, I believe, on think June 18th, where there were counter protesters that showed up. They were accused of being Black Lives Matter, and they just came and laid down on their stomachs in the midst of the crowd.
I was not there for that, but I did hear about that.
Okay, all right. And a lot of these rallies were put on, you might know, by the American Patriot Council. Are you familiar with them? Okay. Do you know who Ryan Kelly is?
That sounds really familiar. Is he a representative?
He ran for governor.
Okay. Yep,
he like when Phil Robinson and the Michigan Liberty Militia would provide protection, it was to the rallies that the American Patriot Council and Ryan Kelly would put on throughout the state.
Okay.
So you've never met Ryan Kelly?
No.
Okay. So what's your opinion on the fact that private citizens can still to this day carry concealed weapons into the Michigan Capitol building?
I think that it's stupid that they differentiate that a concealed pistol is going to be safer than one out in the open. I personally, if you're going to go any route that way, if you feel the need to, it should be open carried, so at least you know who has it. You know what I mean? Like, if they're worried about guns, wouldn't you want to know who the fuck has them? So concealed, it's like, so I can still come in with a concealed. And why? Because I got a card that says I'm okay. I still got my card, buddy. Like, am I still okay? I'm not, by the way. They said no. But, yeah, I think it's ridiculous. To me, a lot of these things are arbitrary. They're trying to, like, pander to the other side who's afraid of guns. Of course, we all know the fear sells. So, look what we're doing to keep you safe. Well, I'm not going to sell you my freedom for safety. These people will, and that's who they're pandering to. So I think that's a lot of what this is, really.
I mean, myself, looking back at, like, specifically that April 30th footage that I've gathered quite a bit of with Bill Null up on the balcony and his brother up there, and they're armed and they're making some kind of, a lot of violent rhetoric is coming out of Bill Null's mouth, for instance, in his live streams. I guess I'm perplexed, just as a private citizen, why you go down to your local county courthouse and you can't legally carry a firearm in there, even if you have a CPL, but you can in our state capitol building, where people are debating highly contested issues. I know back on April 30th, people were, even if you didn't have a CPL, were allowed to bring in AR-15s and long guns into there completely not non-concealed. And then the Capitol Commission, after that, sometime thereafter, passed an administrative rule that prohibited open carry, and now only concealed carry is allowed in the Capitol. Are you of the opinion that's a good idea for private citizens to be permitted to bring firearms into the Michigan Capitol?
Who's to say who can permit that? If it's our right to have a tool to defend ourselves, I don't care what it is. So we can get stuck on the guns, but I also believe that arms, it could be anything. It could be a hatchet. It could be a sword. I mean, where are we going to draw the line? Is a pocket knife going to be too much? The tool does not define what an action is going to be, right? So just because somebody has a gun, just because they're in a Capitol with a gun, doesn't mean that they're going to do something bad. Just like carrying a gun into the store doesn't mean they're going to do something bad. It's going to be the intent behind having it. Now, when there's thousands of people who have guns at these rallies, and there's going to be some jackass who's decided he's going to be a bad guy, I don't think so. You know what I mean? So to me, the more guns, the safer situations are going to be. Things are going to be less likely to happen, and we've seen it. I've never been to a protest where there's been a negligent discharge or accidental discharge. Everything has been peaceful. Things got heated, but that's it. That's where it stops, is just a talk and rhetoric, which is fine. We have the right to say that. So you want to say, should they have the right to do that? Well, should we have the right to speak freely? So if we allow that, if we say, well, this is not a safe place to have that, where does that stop them? So to me, that's why I'm against any sort of regulation against guns. I don't give a fuck where it's at. You should be able to carry it with you. I'm not in any less danger in a school than I am in the store. Actually, I'm in more of a danger in school now because I cannot have a gun in there. Well, so are the bad guys. That's why the schools get shot up.
So you brought up bad guys.
Yes.
So how do you differentiate, like when people are walking into the Capitol with firearms, if CPL holders can still walk in with concealed weapons and there's no metal detectors, any other person, a violent felon, for instance, could be one of these bad guys that you reference, could conceal a firearm and bring it into the Capitol building as well, unnoticed, and create mayhem. You would acknowledge that there are some people that should not be permitted to own firearms, or how do you feel about that?
Oh my gosh. So again, if a person is a living individual, they're given the title of felon. Under what laws? You know, it's one thing that was legal yesterday is now felony today with a swipe of a pen. So yeah, sure, somebody could be a felon. So we want to take their gun away. Well, all they did was they maintained possession of their bump stock, a piece of plastic, right? So I'm just using that as a very specific example. So again, it's going to come down to, for me, to, you know, if we say this person can't have it, again, who's making these rules? And we all know who's doing it, you know, the legislation and whatnot. But if we allow this, they're never happy with one. Power always expects and seeks more power. So we gave them this. Next thing you know, 20 years down the road, man, I mean, we're way over here, way away from the original intent of people's safety.
So I've interviewed various militia individuals in the past that have taken the position that the Second Amendment should permit them to own everything from a tank to a Black Hawk helicopter. Do you agree with that type of mentality?
If you got the money. Yeah.
So, okay. So private citizen, you think, should be able to own a tank, for instance, to protect themselves from what type of...
So foreign and domestic. We don't... A lot of the stuff with the militias tends to, especially in the media, tends to direct itself towards what, you know, how we feel about our own government. Our own government's not the only thing we have to worry about. Our own government's not the only one that wants to suppress us and use us for their own benefit. There's other countries that would like to, you know, come here and do us harm. I mean, we're America. You know what I mean? One of the freest country, and people don't really like us. You know, so yeah, I think that the regular people should be able, if you have the money, and whatnot, you should be able to get whatever the heck you want to be able to get. The original military was militia, you know. So if these people didn't have the cannons that they had as private citizens, how would they have been able to fight against the redcoats coming in with their cannons? Like we were able to match force with force because we had the same thing that they had. So historically, the militiaman and the paid military man had the same weapons. Right? It's not the case anymore. And so we are less safe against our own government if they decide to do something, or against a foreign perpetrator if they decided to do something. And it's because of the individual being able to have the right to a weapon of whatever choice that other countries are a lot more sketchy about coming here and doing stuff. They've said it.
So there's some information that came out during your preliminary examination about some bad experiences you've had with militias.
Yep.
Can you describe that?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's really cool. This is the reason that I do not click up with any militia. The rhetoric that got these guys in trouble, you hear amongst... I want to say this so it doesn't hurt everybody, right? Because not everybody is of the mindset, but no matter where you're at, you can have the extremist mindset or people who are bloviating, just running their mouth to look tough. You can pick them out right away because they're the ones running their mouth trying to look tough, you know? That's... Shit, can you ask that question again? I'm sorry.
So you had bad experiences with militias in the past.
So that's what I mean by bad experiences is I don't want to be a part of a group where that is acceptable per se, or, you know, if somebody does get in trouble, now I'm with them, like what just happened here really. I don't know. I like being by myself. I don't like people telling me what, like this one group, it was just even a prepper group. They said, okay, we're going to have a get together, but you can't bring your guns. Fuck, if I'm not going to listen to my government, dude, you sure as hell ain't going to tell me. It made that known. So no, I'm against people trying to control me.
Okay.
I guess.
So it was more like, did you ever sign on to like taking oaths into any militias?
I did before, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like any specific militias in Michigan?
They're no longer banded together, but there's the United Patriot 3%, I want to say. The 3% UP.
Okay.
United Patriots.
When approximately was that?
That's when I first got into this stuff. So I just moved up here. Maybe 2016, 2017.
Okay. All right. And what are your thoughts on the Boogaloo Boys?
Okay. What is the version of Boogaloo that we're representing here, first of all? Because it's not what the government's saying it is. It's not an anarchist get together, right? If my understanding of it, and again, I guess this can come down to personal opinion or what I've heard about it, is the Boogaloo would be a fight against our government, right? That would be the Boogaloo. It would be like another civil war, I guess. It's not something that should be looked forward to, and I think that anybody who says otherwise, here's something that irritates me. Any motherfucker that stands up and says, oh, I'm ready to shoot somebody, that's the easiest thing for you. You're waiting to fucking kill another American? There's something wrong with you, motherfucker. You know, that shit bothers me. The Boogaloo should be the last resort because you've already tried doing stuff. These motherfuckers want to pull a trigger on another human being. People say this shit. They don't realize what real violence is, what it actually does to you, what it looks like. You know, it's real easy to do this shit. I think that should be the last resort. On
the Boogaloo Boy issue,
yes.
You brought up the Civil War, and
Yeah.
you know, from my experience in doing research on the Boogaloo, it runs the gamut from what I guess you would call accelerationist. Have you heard that term before?
No, but I understand it.
Okay, so an accelerationist, from my limited research on it, is someone that is not only believe that a civil war is inevitable, which I think most of the mainstream Boogaloo Boy movement believe that a civil war is imminent. The accelerationists want to bring it about.
Yep.
And so what's your take on the potential of a civil war breaking out in the United States?
It scares the shit out of me. It scares the shit out of me. I like being able to sit in my house and not have to worry about roving bands of cocksuckers, wanting to come rape, pillage, and kill people, because that will happen. You will find factions of people. You'll be surprised how fast things fall apart, and people are, man, I'm so sorry.
No,
I rabbit hole on this. I rabbit hole on this stuff because there's so much that goes into it. Your questions are simple, but there's so much that goes into the question, for an answer, I guess.
So I guess,
scares me.
Do you believe that a civil war is inevitable here in the United States because of what you've seen?
I'm going to say that civil war is inevitable, and no matter what country, no matter what government you have in place, because you're always going to have people who don't agree with the other side. And it eventually will culminate to something. I mean, just look at history. It's constant. There is not one country that has ever existed without civil war every once in a while. It is going to happen. It's cyclic. So yes, I think it's inevitable. I don't know if it's going to happen in my time. I'm hoping that people can invest themselves into learning and using the system the way it's supposed to be used to avoid it as long as possible. The last thing anybody should want to do is fight another human being.
What are your thoughts about using violence to resolve political differences or disputes?
Well, it's not political once you start using violence.
Okay.
That's not political. Policies and politics, it's about talking, being able to come to some sort of agreement, understanding. I don't need to have 100% of what I want. I would appreciate it because I'm very conservative. And so I would like a certain way for the country to be that, like I feel it was supposed to be, with Christian values, freedom of the people, very limited government, stuff like that.
In 2020, would you consider yourself more of a prepper, you think? I mean, can you explain to me what a prepper is?
Yes. So a prepper is somebody who would prepare for some sort of negative outcome in the future, right? So whether it's natural disaster, a war, whatever, I want to be able to have the ability and availability to take care of me and mine without any structure, outside structure. So it's real easy to have things when we have a store that I can go to, when the government's handing things out. But what happens when the government decides you're not worth giving it out to? What happens when the infrastructure for trucking goes down and railroads goes down and we don't have a store anymore? We have local places, which is awesome. We should be supporting that anyways. But other than that, I need to know how to hunt, which requires fishing, trapping, shooting, bow and arrow, slingshot. I mean, you name it, whatever I can do to get my meat and my vegetables. So then as a prepper, I will also learn my local area, my flora, my fauna, and what times and seasons and what parts of them I can use for food and medicine, because medicine also is something that people highly overlook. And there's so much out here that I'm very quickly learning is very beneficial outside of pharmaceuticals. So being a prepper is being self-sufficient outside of an outside structure. You have your own structure.
So there was an instance in William Null's video that I mentioned before, where he was live streamed from the Capitol on April 30th, standing on the balcony overlooking the Senate. And someone off camera at some point when he was live streaming that day indicated that if shit hits the fan, I'm headed up north. And they made that comment to him. And Bill Null, his response was, "Not me, I'm going hunting," insinuating that he was going hunting for humans. What do you think about that type of violent rhetoric?
It is, if that's what he meant, I'm not even talking about him specifically, just in general, I'm against that. Again, I think that the last thing anybody should want to do is kill another human being. That needs to be an extreme case. Your life needs to be in danger in order for you to take another human being's life. Otherwise, it's just fucked up, man. I don't know how else to say it.
Well, you sat through the preliminary examination with him as one of your co-defendants of the 5, and there was audio played where he said that instead of kidnapping Governor Whitmer, that he would rather shoot her. And that was an audio recording that was played when FBI agent Impala was testifying. Is that something that you think is okay?
No. So I've been saying it. Yeah. It's kind of like asked and answered.
It's just another instance of when he made a similar type comment.
So I'm not responsible for his comments or how he feels. I cannot tell you what is inside of his head. The few times I've talked to him, there have not been cameras around. We were sitting around a campfire, for example. That one time Phil Robinson was there. The 2 guys came as well. And so we were able to bullshit a little bit there. They do not... To me, they've never seemed like violent people. They've always promoted themselves as protectors of the people, even people that they don't agree with. They've always said, we're going to protect ours, but we're also going to make sure that ours doesn't attack them. So to hear these things being said, I don't know if it was something they were doing to play along with these guys, or if it's something that they actually feel, but that doesn't feel right to me. I personally don't feel these guys are that way.
So how do you differentiate, like we talked about the gun issue, how to differentiate between who's a bad guy, who's a good guy? How would you believe someone should differentiate between like violent rhetoric compared to, just blowing off steam? How do you know whether or not someone's serious?
I'm very black and white. There is no crime until something happens. And I'm sorry that something has to happen, that somebody has to get hurt in order for my opinion to matter here. But if nothing has happened, there is no victim. Once there is a victim, then the individual who did the crime needs to be dealt with. Innocent people who had nothing to do with it should not have any regulations placed on them because of something that somebody else did. That is not fair.
So you and I met for the first time in August of last year, 2022, during your preliminary examination. Yes. And I filmed that preliminary exam. And what was it like to go through that process, just emotionally, and what was it like?
It's sickening. It's scary. I have the weight of the government against me, and I did not do anything. Not the way they said they did. So I'm terrified. You know, these people, professionals in their field, they're professional bulldogs. Their job is to get people put in prison. These prosecutors, because if it was about justice, then they would look at the actual evidence. When, oh, okay, I'm not going to get into that. But it's terrifying, dude. And it makes me sick. And it makes me sad that I can actually be put away for years away from my kids, you know?
So can you explain in your own words what you understand the charges are currently that you're facing?
Yes, the charges are material support of a terrorist or terrorist organization, which requires you to have knowledge of the organization and your help is actually assisting them. Then felony firearm, which is just having a firearm on your person during the commission of a felony. So,
and what are the potential sentences, maximum sentences for those charges?
The felony firearm is an automatic 2-year, and that's going to be done first before the next one. The next one is up to 20 years. Of course, the judge can go outside of that if they feel like it. According to guidelines with my history, lack of criminal history and all that, I'm looking at not quite 22. But that's if the judge goes by guidelines, if I even get convicted. So there's that.
So
I don't care if it's 1 fucking year, dude. 1 year, 22 years. I've been to jail. That's enough. Like there's no freedom. You can't walk out a door. Like it's so weird. I don't know if you've ever been to jail. I don't need to know. I'm just saying it's fucking weird to look at a door and be like, I can't walk out that motherfucker. It's weird.
When did you start using barricade as a moniker?
Okay. So I was actually called Roadblock with another militia because I was bigger than I am now. Like I was a big motherfucker. And so I got with this other group, the prepper group actually, that I started to like. And they wanted to change it because I'm coming from a militia to a prepper group. And they're like, you know, let's try to get that over there. It's like, all right, that's cool. And they're like, well, this is pretty close. And it was kind of funny. I forget everything that was said, but there was a good, you know, haha about it. It was about my size, of course, being able to like be in the way of stuff. So kind of like, it was better than bullet catcher, I guess.
I would agree with you there.
Yeah.
So at some point during the preliminary examination, I don't know if it was an encrypted chat message or it was actually an audio recording that was played. Adam Fox made, I believe, a statement to Dan Chappell, who is now we know the FBI informant.
I'm sorry, his last.
What was that?
We can't say his last name. I don't think.
It all came out in the federal proceedings.
Oh.
His name was testified to on a consistent basis throughout the federal trial.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that was one of the things that was supposed to be like. Push up.
Well, I attended, and although they tried to. I attended the first federal trial almost every day, and I listened to the second federal trial, and they used his last name throughout the federal trial, and the government actually filed a motion to, I'm not sure on Dan, but on the FBI agents, they were trying to use a moniker for the FBI agents in federal court, and the judge had none of it. And they actually had to use their real names in federal court.
I didn't know this.
So which is, you know, can you explain to me what happened with the FBI officers that testified that were undercover at your prelim and what they used for their name?
I don't understand the question.
Okay. So for instance, like Mark, who ultimately, I believe his moniker, his nickname in the group was Red. Is that?
I believe so. I believe that's what's in the paperwork.
So Mark, they just use his first name.
Okay.
But when he testified in federal court, he had to use his full first and last name, and it was reported on in the press.
Okay.
And Dan Chappelle, when he testified in federal court, his full name came out, and it's been reported in the press as well. It's all out there. And the Antrim County court, and even somewhat in the Jackson County cases, we're playing a shell game with these people's names.
Yep.
And just so you know, it's out there. It's in the public domain. Everybody knows.
All right, thank you.
So you don't have to say it. I mean, I'm not trying to put a target on Dan at all, but
Okay.
his name is out there. So I guess to get back to what I was saying, so Adam Fox at some point in some method informed Dan that, quote, okay, Barricade, I don't think we'll be down for the more extreme shit. And I'm assuming that that's the feeling that Adam got in and around the end of August of 2020, that you weren't down with the extreme shit. So can you explain to me how that got communicated to Adam, that you weren't down with the extreme shit?
That would have been more on a one-on-one basis between me and Adam then. Because I was very non-committal when he would ask me about joining his group, or asking me if I would do this or if I would do that. I would give very vague answers. I thought I was giving enough vagary where I could still stay in contact, but without committing to the group. And there's reasons for that. And because I just said this, I would like to say them real quick. When I first heard him talking, right, I met Adam. That's how I got involved with this, right? The ringleader. I did not know this guy. We talked a few times. That was it. I shook his hand once at a rally. Outside of that. So, anyways, when he started talking like this, like, it was a big blow to me. I'm like, where the fuck is this coming? Because I was in the truck on the way up to Bel Air when I found out what was actually happening. We were up in Bel Air when it started getting real. But, yeah, so anyways, I start hearing this stuff. I think it's two crazy guys, not knowing that Dan's the informant. And I'm thinking to myself, so, like, how do I handle this? Is this seriously serious? Do I go to the cops right now? Do I stay involved, try to stay in with them so I can learn more? So if there is something going on, then I can go to the cops. I actually did plan on, one of my ideas was, if this progresses, if I find out about more people, then I planned on actually going to the police with this information. And I figured during this time, if there was already an investigation going on, that things would already be taken care of and it wouldn't be an issue anyways. Haha.
So would you consider kidnapping a sitting governor extreme?
That's way fucking extreme.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't get to go take another person against their will.
So that would have been some of the extreme shit that you would not have been down with?
Yep.
Okay. So what's your...
I cannot tell you what he is meaning. I can tell you what I mean. No kidnapping, no murder, no torture. If I cannot talk to you to get something done, we will get a bigger group and go to other representatives and we will get it done another way. If it doesn't happen this cycle, we'll try the next. We'll keep trying until we build up enough momentum to get it done right. That's where I'm at. So.
And you use the word torture. There was also, from what I recall, when I filmed the prelim, there was some, I believe, an audio recording of you mentioning that you were not down with torturing Governor Whitmer.
Yep. So while they were this was on that ride up in Bel Air, and when he was talking about what was going on, and I'm asking, like, what's going on? What's the plan? Obviously, I didn't fucking know anything. I just had to get it out right away because I can't even talk about torture. Because if it starts going in depth, I have issues. I can't even watch movies with people getting hurt. Like Django, where that guy sicks the dogs on that dude. I actually got sick during that. So I don't like seeing people be hurt, and I can't do nothing to help them.
So what's your opinion generally about how the FBI handled your arrest and the investigation overall?
They're fucking liars. The FBI, personally, they're a strong arm of the law. Again, they're law enforcement. They're doing what they're asked to do. They didn't come up with the plan to come hurt. Well, some of them did. The higher ups did. They helped come up with the plan. But the guys on the ground, the guys that came here, they were doing the job. They're actually pretty respectful. They put her dog out in the kennel instead of shooting it. They put the food away that was cooking. They didn't even have to put it away, dude. They turned it off and put it away for us. Like, the people are good people, but I don't like the way that they're ran. I don't like the way they're used. They're used against us.
So some of the attorneys for the federal defendants, Adam Fox, Barry Croft, and others, and even in the Jackson County case for the Wolverine Watchman down there, their attorneys made entrapment arguments that, whether or not the jury in the first federal trial was persuaded by those arguments. Maybe because there were no convictions in the first trial. And then in Jackson County, the entrapment was pursued in pretrial motions, and then the judge wouldn't even allow it at trial.
Nope.
What do you think about the entrapment argument as it pertains to your case?
The whole thing's entrapment. The whole thing. The FBI and their informants helped with training. They funded travel, food, lodging. When I say they helped with training, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I was there at one of the FTXs, and I watched the undercovers and the Dan guy who had military training and FBI training, right, teach these guys stuff.
Like what kinds of stuff?
So the kill house, which I hate that word, it's a shoot house. Obviously, it means something when you use different words. They showed it because I actually know tactics. Okay, I know some. I'm not a professional, but I know some. I've been around a little bit. I watched the guys run through the shoot house, and you can tell they are amateurs. They do not know what they're doing. They would get themselves killed. Then when the professionals got up there, you saw one man, right? They even in a two-man team, the lead man walked around and pied the corner, pop, 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 pop. And then once every sector that he could see was safe, then they went in, divided their sectors, then converged on the other stuff, right? Like the other doorway leading to the hallway. This is not something an average person would know to do. So why the fuck would you stand there and show them to do this? You made somebody who wasn't dangerous. When Dan first got with these guys, he told the police and the FBI, it's just a bunch of dudes crawling around in the mud. So why the fuck are you going to take dudes in the mud and make them dangerous? Why would you do that?
So you're charged with providing material support for terrorism.
Yes.
And the activities that you're alleged to have been involved in, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but are you saying that the activities as far as Dan training people to use weaponry and things like that were also material support for terrorism?
100. If I did it, I'd be getting charged with it. Paul Beller, who did the medical part, right? That was part of his material. If I would have given a penny to these guys in furtherance, that's material. So yes, an FBI agent or undercover motherfucker saying, hey, you suck, this is how you do it for real. That's material. So
you talked about the shoot house. I'm assuming this is in Luther?
I believe so. Yes. Luther.
So I believe it was in the prelim, there's testimony came out about an incident where you became upset because someone pointed a loaded weapon at you.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell me about that?
Okay, so Dan was supposed to be, he had orders from his handlers to watch the shoot house and make sure nobody got hurt. He ended up going off to run a land navigation course, right? Here's some more training from a fucking professional to dumbasses. Anyways, he wasn't there, and because I have some medical background, I stood there just in case somebody did do something dumb. I would be able to help. Again, I don't want people to be hurt. You know, if I have the ability to help somebody, I'm going to do it. So I'm standing there at the corner of the shoe house thing, and the guys finished. They come around, and as they came around the other corner, they lifted their gun up, and I'm standing, you know, so I'm at this end, they're at that end, but I mean, right the fuck at me. And yeah, I was not happy about it.
So that was during a live fire drill?
That was the live fire day, yes.
Okay.
And I was mad, dude. Fucking get that thing off of me.
Did Dan ever have conversations around you about his military experience?
Oh yeah, he was very proud of it. Yeah, he in fact, he told me that he's one of the people who was in Overwatch, or that Kyle guy, the American Sniper fella. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They made a movie out of him. they worked together. So Dan was on the ground, and they would go and light things up with their lasers so that planes could bomb them and shit. And he was like an Overwatch for him. So he actually knew this guy. I have no reason to discredit him except for the fact he's a liar. So, but it seemed legit. And he showed me some videos, and whether it was him or not in the videos, they were lasing stuff and shit was getting blown up. So he was very proud of that.
So, do you think any of the witnesses that testified during your preliminary exam misrepresented the truth?
Any of the witnesses? Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Oh, all the way, yeah.
So, do you have any specific instances that stand out in your mind about?
Talking about me?
Yeah.
What they did to me? Well, I do. So, it's funny you ask. I mean, we can go through this, right? This is the stuff that they said. Here's the lies and why I did what I did. Here's the lies that they told to get me bound over. So let me start with this because this one's fresher. Is that
Sure.
okay?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. They said that I went on the ride with foreknowledge, right? That I knew what was going on. In the text, and I need to find those, I asked Adam. Oh, they're right here, actually. So right here, Adam's asking, want to go for a ride Saturday and do some recon. To put this in some perspective for you guys, I was a part of trying to get a local group together, not a militia, but a local group, because we had Antifa and BLM come up for a rally. Well, why the hell are you coming to Cadillac? We're so small. It wouldn't make a difference here. So, of course, seeing everything else that was going on in the country with these people, we're like, we're going to get together and do something. So myself and some other people that I met along the way throughout the 2A sanctuary stuff got together, decided that we were going to form a community group to keep our community safe. Nobody is going to bust our shit up and steal our shit and hurt our people. That is how I ended up meeting the prepper group. And within the prepper group, it was supposed to be Wexford County and then surrounding counties as a buffer zone. For some reason, Adam Fox was a part of that group, and that's how I met him. It was during the beginning of the lockdowns. So we were actually being respectful about not getting together, and we did some online trainings, right? Who knew these terrorists would listen? So that's where I saw Adam the first time, and I was giving a medical class on IFAKs, individual first aid kits. I ended up seeing him at a rally, and he's got a very distinguishable face. You know it. Right? The dude, very cavemanish face. Like, he stands right there. He's tall as fuck, dude. Like, this guy, you point him out, boom. Went over and you know, like, hey, man, you know, nice to actually meet you. And then we went our ways. During this time, we had a police liaison who was, we would get information, and we'd run it through him to run through the police to come back to us. Yes, this is legit. No, it's not legit.
You're talking about at the rally?
No, this is the up here group again. I'm sorry. But there's a reason I bounced back to this, right? So Adam, living in Grand Rapids, we actually had pictures of vans with license plates, right? We had the license plate numbers. We had Duff Luter, he used to be a sheriff and K-9 person up here and whatnot. We had him run the stuff through his contacts. He said, yes, this is legitimate. So I asked Adam, hey, have you seen these vans? Have you heard anything about this? Whatnot. And he said, no. I said, hey, man, you know, if you do, just say something. So what we would do is we would go out and stand to make sure nothing happened to the community or the people. I've also done this in other communities like Muskegon. I went and helped a buddy out. We stood on the streets, and sure enough, BLM and Antifa showed up, and they were not able to do anything. They set one dumpster on fire, and they tried to fuck with the Walmart. The cops shut that down so fast, right?
So you did that armed?
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
And you did that in Cadillac here as well?
The group that I helped set up did it because I was actually on an assignment downstate for my
security job.
So Adam said, no, I haven't seen this. I'll keep an ear open. I was like, cool. So when he says, do you want to go for a ride, right? With everything that I've been involved in so heavily, this isn't just like a passing fancy, like, hey, I think this is a good idea. Like, I live this life of making my community safe and bolstering this. So in my head, all right, because I've been in other communities and whatnot, I'm thinking, let me keep reading. I said, do you have a place in mind? Then I start talking about my kids and my timing and whatnot, and I will actually let you read this if you would like. He said, doing recon on a high-profile vacation house. Where does that say Whitmer? And I have the full exchange right here. Where does this say Whitmer in any of this or what they wanted to do? So in my head, with everything that I've been through and talked to with Adam, I'm thinking, is this the place BLM or Antifa is looking to hurt, or are they going to get smart and not use the hotels and motels like they've been doing, outlying areas to the communities that they plan on doing damage to, because this is what they were doing. So is this a place we're going to have to go scope out and find out the logistics of how to protect it, or is this a place we got to go scope out and find out the logistics of how to keep people in? Like, how are we going to do this? While working in tandem with police officers, by the way. And so when he said this stuff, and he's very vague, it's all right here. High profile vacation house. I asked for a loadout. I need to know where to meet, time. He says all this stuff.
And those are exhibits that were admitted during your preliminary examination,
yes.
Correct? Yeah.
Yep. So do you already have all this stuff then?
So Exhibit 31 there, I recall reading the prelim transcript about them reading that into the record when I read it yesterday. So during your preliminary examination, your attorney, Bill Barnett, he argued that certain audio clips that of containing your voice that were secretly recorded, I'm assuming by Dan, yes. that the government cherry picked those from hours and hours of recordings, and your words were taken out of context. So you just talked about it a little bit, but what context do you believe was missing from the audio recordings?
All right. So the context being that I did not know what the ride was. I did not know that I just hopped in a vehicle with two guys who were going to go plan to kidnap a fucking governor. So to say that I did, right? So you asked for what they said about me that's not true. That's just number one. And I had to give you some background on it. So I'm sorry for talking so much, but it does matter.
That's fine.
So yeah, so that's one of the lies, but that's why I'm telling you this stuff, is because I didn't know what the ride was about. So how could I even say no? I'm not down with that, dude. Like, stay the fuck away from me. I'm not going to send you my address. I didn't even have that opportunity to do that for myself. The first thing that I did hear when I got in the truck was Adam said something about we're going to blow up the something about blowing up the bitch's boat or something like that. I have heard so many dark jokes about the boat because her husband asked if he could put his boat in the marina because he's the governor's husband. Okay, and so many people, I have a dark sense of humor. A lot of us guys do have a dark sense of humor in these circles. So I just thought he was making a fucking joke. Who the hell sits down with somebody you don't know and says something like that if it was serious? Well, he laughed about it. And I was like, oh man, when he said that, I in my head I saw a revoked stamp, because he's like, revoke, bitch. I was like, oh, in my head I saw a stamp. Like, I thought it was a joke. Nothing was talked about again until we got to Bel Air, an hour away from here, and I got nobody. I'm sitting in the back of a truck with two guys, and as far as I know, who are armed, talking about doing fucking felonious shit. Yeah, I got my gun on me. So now I have to sit in the back of this truck wondering, how do I get out of this? Do I say, hey, I got to take a piss stop to a store and then go in there and call a cops? Be like, hey, these guys, like I said, I don't want to fuck somebody's life up if they're not actually serious. Yes, they went for a ride. That's starting to get serious. Anybody would agree with that. They did not go to take her. They did not have explosives. We did not blow up a boat. We didn't even look at a boat to blow it up. So this is one of the things that they want to bring up, is that there was this joke about a fucking boat, but we were serious. Remember they said it was a discussion? Oh, we're going to go blow up her boat. Ha ha ha. End of discussion. That's not a fucking discussion. The one FBI agent said that Adam and I were friends. He could tell. What the fuck qualifies as a friend, dude? You're a psychiatrist now? Like, how the hell are we friends, man? Because I talk to the motherfucker? Like, I'm talking to you. Are we friends? No, dude. It's not. I don't know. They paint narratives with what they can, and they're trying to do the best job they can of it with fucking little shit, which is why they have to use specific words. They have to paint it in this way,
So when you were driving down, I think it's Timberlake Drive on Birch Lake, and Adam handed you his phone, and you took a slow-mo video that contained Governor Whitmer's vacation home in that slow-mo video. What did you think you were doing when you did that?
Oh, I know exactly what that was. I mean, it's obvious. He said we take a video while we drive by. I'm not stupid. How do you say no to somebody not knowing how far are they willing to go to keep you quiet? I don't know him. I do not know Dan at all. I shook Adam's hand once and I saw him on a fucking chat.
So do you think so?
If I gotta take a video to get home to my kids, I'll do it again.
So would you it sounds like you're asserting that you potentially were under duress when you did that.
It would be, except for they did not coerce me to do it. They did not actually tell me, if you don't do it, you will be injured. I did not want to give them the opportunity to think that I would not be okay with them, because they now know where the fuck I live. My mom is here, who's not in the best of health. My kids are here. I had custody of my kids, dude.
So that was on April 29th of 2020, correct?
Okay.
When that daytime, I guess, surveillance occurred. That was April 29th.
I don't have the date in my head or directly in front of me.
From my recall, I think it was April 29th.
Okay.
And then you were also, subsequent to that, you went to a training in Luther on September 12th and 13th of 2020.
Yep.
So why, after being able to survive the incident where you drove by Governor Whitmer's house and you took a slow-mo video, did you then re-engage and go back and do more trainings with Adam Fox?
Okay, awesome question. So like I said, during this whole process, there was a time of fear for my life. Like, I was serious. I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. By the end of the ride, I had two idiots in front of me who didn't even have her address. They went on this operation with nothing. They looked like morons to me, right? Now, morons can still be dangerous. So staying in contact with them is beneficial, just in case it does progress. Also, this is embarrassing, I wanted to get some steroids from Adam. So how do you do that unless he thinks you're cool, right? So I didn't think that they were actually that dangerous at this point. I wanted steroids. Dan, being prior military, could also possibly help me get some training manuals as a civilian I'm not privy to, right? So I was thinking, if I could stay in contact with these guys and, maintain some sort of not friendship, what's the word I'm looking for? Kindness amongst each other, I guess, that I could benefit. It was selfish. The two other reasons are 100% selfish. And then instead of, finding out if they're serious being my number one goal, that became my last goal. Not that I wasn't looking for it. If it progressed, I still plan on going to the cop spot. I wanted steroids. Here I am I'm much bigger, doing private security. I want to get jacked. I want to look like these guys. You know what I mean? And where do you get steroids?
So during the ride, and there was times, I think multiple occasions, that you used your own phone to search for Governor Whitmer's address of her vacation home. Yep. And it's kind of irrefutable evidence. It came off of a search warrant of your phone that they seized afterwards. So why would you be searching for her particular address? Yep.
And I never denied that from the get-go, man. If you look at when they first pulled me in and they did the interview with me, I told them everything. I was, like I said before, I'd actually expected that if this was severe enough, there was going to be intervention, and I expected this to happen, just not as it happened. But hold on, ask that again.
Why did you search for her address?
Yes, I forgot where we're at for a second.
And can you explain to me the process of trying it? From the testimony that came out in your attorney cross-examining FBI agent Henrik Impala, Mr. Burnett was attempting to get into evidence that her address and the location of her vacation home is easily discoverable by a simple Google search. Was that your experience?
By an idiot, I believe he would say. And no, I was not able to find it, so I'm dumber than an idiot. So I was looking up independently. Just even if I would have found it, does not mean that I would have handed it over to them. I didn't know where the fuck we were at. I was hoping we weren't even close. I knew that there was a place in Lansing. We weren't even close. I knew there was a place up in the governor's mansion, I think it is, up in the island, right?
Mackinac Island?
Yeah. So I knew about that, and I was hoping that's kind of what they were thinking they were doing, and that we weren't even close. So I'm sitting here like, man, if we're not even here, I got, not much to worry about. So I'm looking up for my own fucking benefit at that time. And if you do have it, nothing, I was not able to find anything. And again, even if I would have found it, I would not have handed that information over to them. That was for my own benefit. If I would have been able to find it and been like, man, it's still 300 miles away. This is a bust, guys. Anything I could do to try to pull him back. Man, I wanted out. I wanted to get home. That was one of the scariest things I've ever been in, man. And I'm not a sissy by any means. I'm actually kind of a little tough guy. But to have two guys, one of them a fucking professional door kicker. Are you kidding me? And another one, a jacked up, rated fucking a hothead. Yeah, it was pretty fucking intimidating, man. And the last thing I want to do is shoot these guys. Again, that's what I was trying to say earlier. I'm sitting in the back of this truck trying to figure out how to get out of it, because the other option, aside from running and calling cops and fucking these guys' lights up, is, if I say no, what happens if they turn on me? Do I pop at him and then have this guy fucking jack the brakes and then turn on me? He's a professional. Do I shoot the driver who's a professional and then just hope that we don't crash and I die and then I can get away from Adam however I need to do it? Like, how do I separate myself from two armed men that I don't know?
So you were in the back of the vehicle?
Yes, I was behind
and
them.
Dan was driving?
Yep.
And Adam Fox was in the passenger seat?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of vehicle?
It was a truck.
Was it Dan's truck?
Yes.
Okay. Was it a 4-door or?
It was a 4-door.
Okay.
It's a very nice truck.
Okay. And, with the exhibits that you have right there in front of you, those have exhibit stickers on them, and they were obviously admitted during your preliminary examination. So there's a distinction between the evidence that was actually admitted during your preliminary examination and all the other 2 terabytes of information. That's what I've been told.
Yep.
That each of the attorneys received from either the Department of Justice or the Attorney General's office in response to your discovery demands. And you're aware that there was a protective order issued by 86th District Court Judge Stepka at the initiation of your case that your attorney stipulated to. You're aware of that?
That he stipulated to while I was in jail. Yes,
Yeah.
He said that he signed it on my behalf. And then he asked me about it, yes.
But I guess what I'm getting at is that, your attorney made an argument at the preliminary examination that there's this cherry picking of evidence. And what is your feeling about that protective order that prohibits you from having the ability to provide me, a journalist, with all of the entire recordings, like a 5-hour recording where they take a clip that's 15 seconds out of, for instance?
I would give it to you. I would give it. If it was up to me, you would have it. Oh my gosh, dude.
So the 2 terabytes you would give me?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, if it was up to me. I have a little thumb drive thing, and I got this fucking computer thing that the Attorney General's handed over. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, you're asking about all this stuff, dude. I could show you stacks of paper. I got all of it. Stacks of papers, and this is what I'm dwindled down to, and I'm not even in all of it.
Okay.
All that is everybody else. Everybody else went to meetings. Everybody else helped with planning. Everybody else talked. Everybody else did shit. Name one meeting that I was a part of where I knew what was going on and said, yeah, dude, I was not at any of these. Even the FTX training in Luther, nobody talked about anything in front of me.
So we'll get to that too. So
Okay.
in the related federal prosecutions, some of the defense attorneys asserted that Adam Fox and Barry Croft were just engaged in live action role playing or LARPing. Are you familiar with that term?
I am, and I would disagree with that because, again, it comes down to intent. If they're doing it with the intent of playing a game, okay, that's one thing. But if you're doing it to do something against a real person or real people, that's not a game.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in that same vein, they also, Barry Croft and Adam Fox's attorneys were asserting that it was just all stone crazy talk. That was like the headline in some articles that came out.
Yes.
Because that's what they're arguing.
Yes.
And there's evidence that you were also using a considerable amount of marijuana with Adam Fox during this.
No. Is there evidence that I was using considerable amounts with Adam Fox?
No.
Yes, I smoke.
Okay.
Whether it's with him or not, I did it independently. So I'm not smoking a large amount with Adam Fox.
Okay.
I smoke.
That's what was insinuated in these proceedings. Do you think that the use do you think the use of marijuana at all affected how you were dealing with these circumstances you were in?
I think I know what you're asking. The answer is probably not going to be what you want, but yes, it did help me handle it a lot more in a calm manner, so I didn't seem so jittery with the guys, I guess. I was just able to handle it a lot, just calmer. My outside was fucking like this, but my inside was jumping. So,
But I'm saying, as far as making the decisions on whether you'd get in a vehicle and go up to Antrim County.
I had no idea. No.
But the marijuana didn't have any impact. Do you believe on what you decided to do when you made your decisions?
No, I feel like I would have done those things either way, whether sober. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Because I had to find ways to do what I needed to do, and I would have gotten the truck regardless because I didn't know what the actual plans was. So,
what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about you?
Oh, I was fucking Adam's like best friend. Like we went to school together. Don't you know that? Holy shit, man. We're the best of fucking friends, and I hate government and I hate police and I mean everything that the government is saying about me is the misconception. You know, anybody that knows me, I got friends on the board of commissioners. One of them got a hold of Bill Barnett, and that's how I got him as a lawyer, because she said I would trust Eric with my grandkids. Who the fuck says that, dude? That's a big deal.
Was that your former teacher?
I can't say. Just
okay. So I kind of lost my train of thought now.
Sorry, man.
That's all right.
You were asking me about the misconceptions about me.
Yeah. I was going to follow up with you just indicated that you went to high school with Adam Fox, but that was a joke. That was a joke. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. I assumed that was a joke, but
yeah.
Okay. So the prosecution emphasized your possession of the use of this radio frequency detector and an infrared light detector. What are they specifically alleging you use those for?
So what this is I mean, obviously you know what they are, but I'll explain a little more. The RF detector is radio frequency. So if there is a bug, it is detecting any output or input. The crimson screen on it catches glimmer. You were talking about mini cameras and shit. It's supposed to be able to find these mini cameras. Now, the one that I have, and I still have the box, so it can still be looked up. You can see how shitty it is. It does not actually work, man. For me, it was a gimmick, because in private security, one of the things that you want to do, if you don't actually have the money and the tech, is kind of make people feel comfortable. So if I had a principal that I was trying to protect, and let's say there's a car or a hotel room or whatever, I could take this and I could wind stuff down and make them feel like, damn, this guy is, taking care of me. I feel secure getting in this car. I feel good going into my hotel room now. Give them security means I'm doing my fucking job. They don't need to know that it's a piece of shit. You know what I mean? And I know that's crappy, but that's what it was. And then when I showed it to Adam when they first got here, not at the end of it, and when they first got here, it's bragging rights, and it's a cool little toy. And he even calls it a toy in one of these.
So the RF detector is to look for like audio recording bugs. And then there's the infrared detector, is my understanding, that picks up.
There was no infrared detector on it.
I thought there was two devices.
So there's a lens finder. They call it an infrared detector.
Okay.
That is wrong. Just like I also didn't have a ghillie suit. My guns were not threaded.
So they let me get this straight. They said the infrared detector, that's what they said it was at the preliminary exam, but you're saying it wasn't an infrared detector. Okay.
I'll even show you the box.
No, that's all right. Can you explain to me how you actually first met Adam Fox?
Yes. So again, I got involved with this prepper group. It was supposed to be Wexford and surrounding counties. The surrounding counties were a buffer zone. So if anything started happening outside of Wexford but close to home, we would hear about it and be able to write up, buck up for Wexford.
And when was that?
Oh, fuck. Well, it was in 2020.
Okay.
So I'd say June, maybe April, May, or June.
And we already went over this, but FBI agent Impala described your relationship as a friendship.
Yeah, we were friends.
How would you describe your relationship?
We didn't have a relationship. We were not friends. We had communicated a few times. That was it. That's what is that? Not even an associate. We had met.
So where and when did you first meet FBI informant Dan Chappelle?
When they came to pick me up for the ride.
At the end of August of 2020?
Yeah.
For the daytime surveillance,
for
they
the
call
daytime
it?
surveillance.
Okay.
Yeah.
And What was your first impression that you had of Dan when you first met him?
Stoic. Just very quiet, reserved, military. You know, a good military man, they don't say shit. You know, they watch, they observe, they act accordingly. And that's how I felt about him. He seemed very professional.
So we talked a little bit about how in these shoot houses, or what the government says are kill houses, however you want to describe them,
Shoot house.
that Dan was actively training individuals in these shoot houses, and you observed that.
Legit training. I mean, like I said, they took some idiots and just a few techniques and tactics they showed them. Fucking crazy.
So you said they. Who's they?
So there was Dan, and then there was another FBI FBI undercover guy, and I don't know who he is.
Okay, so not Ty Garbin or
no.
Okay, so did Dan specifically train you on firearms? No, not at all. He didn't provide any instruction when you were going through the shoot houses on tactics to not shoot your friendlies.
For the low level that they were going through, I was already past that. I didn't need the instruction.
Okay. So do you think that, Dan, in his testimony, he didn't testify during your prelim, but I watched him testify during the federal trial, the first one of Adam Fox and Barry Croft and the others. And I watched him testify at the trial for the Wolverine Watchman, 3 defendants in October. And he testified that he was a range safety officer, and that his goal and what he was basically, I guess, self-appointed himself to do was to keep people safe and not, in my words, shoot friendlies. And do you think that would be an important skill if someone were to planning to kidnap someone to not shoot friendlies?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
In the context of doing something wrong? Is that what you're asking me? How do I feel about that in the context of doing something wrong?
Well, I'm saying, for instance, like you brought up Paul Bellar as being the supposed medic,
yeah,
and you allegedly were a medic as well. You were Adam Fox's medic, allegedly.
Oh, that's right.
So you're providing medic services, let's say, throughout this process. What do you think would be more important thing in training to kidnap someone? Would it be someone that's training you not to kill your friendlies and how to go through a shoot house, or someone that's training someone how to put a tourniquet on after someone's shot?
Okay, so you are asking about these skills in the context of doing something wrong. Now I got nothing to say on it, because I would not help benefit somebody for the furtherance of doing something wrong.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to say that you were this medic. So, for instance, Paul Bellar, testimony came out during the trial that he had basically a tent set up when they were doing trainings. I don't think you were even at those. They were down at Joe Morrison's property, where Paul was training medical. He was training people on medical, and then Dan was over here at another area teaching people on firearms.
Okay.
Do you think they're equally important type of training if someone were to want to do some behavior like go kidnap someone? I guess
you got to understand that that's one of those questions that if somebody wanted to get a hold of this, if I answer that, dude.
Yeah, I understand that, but
for an operation, let's just say outside of kidnapping or doing something bad, if you were doing an operation, yes, you would want to learn how to muzzle control, finger discipline, all that stuff. You want to know how to handle your tool, which means not hurting your people. Your people are your tools too. You're a tool to them just like they are to you. You know each other's strengths. You know each other's weaknesses. So you don't want to take out an asset. That's for damn sure. And then as far as the medical, if something did happen, yes, you would want to be able to plug up a fucking hole, keep them breathing, keep the blood in. That's kind of where you're at. You know, it's very first response, and then that's to get them to professionals. So yes, they go hand in hand.
Have you ever seen any evidence that you've looked at through the voluminous information you have that I don't have access to, that would in any way lead you to believe that the FBI gave Dan permission to train people in firearms?
I think I can't say yes or no to that.
All right. No, I understand that. So when did you first become aware that Dan was an informant for the FBI?
I guess when I started getting the legal documents sent to me by my attorney, I kind of may have assumed before that, just based off of what was being said to me, because it was only me, Dan, and Adam. So again, you all realize this, I didn't know about a bigger group. To me, it was two crazy dudes.
But you knew about the group that was in Luther on September 19th.
Oh yeah, I've been to other trainings too. Were they a part of that? A part of a group? Just because it was touted as a national militia get-together that was family-friendly. What the fuck about that says to you that we're training here to go and grab a sitting governor, right? And again, with the basics that they were teaching, which of course you need to start people at ground level, but they would have been ready forever where they were at. They were so fucking low. They were learning how to pull a trigger. Okay, it was bad.
So you didn't go to any of the trainings like in Cambria, Wisconsin, or any of the meetings in like Peebles, Ohio? You weren't involved in any of those?
Nope. Actually, that's how Adam and I guess if you want to call it a relationship, that's how that more happened, was because he asked me if I wanted a job, because he had to do a militia get together in Ohio, and he could not miss it, and he could not miss his gig. And at that time, I was selling ammo, because jobs were hard during this time, and I could get it cheap and I could sell it for a lot more. So I was making money that way. I wanted something legit.
What do you think about Dan now?
Oh, fuck, I'm going to be honest. I think he's a cocksucker. I think he's a piece of shit. He wants to start his own business, his own firearm business, where he is training people. And what better way to do it? When there's so many out there, how do you stand out to make the money? Why would I go to Dan over this guy who's already been doing it for so long? Well, if you fucking help bring down some bad motherfuckers, man, you're the dude I want to go to. Why wouldn't I want to learn what you know? You know what I mean? So he could get some cred, I guess, some credit, street cred, whatever.
But
I think
he's in hiding, I guess, right now, is what they're portraying it as. He had to sell his house.
Why?
No.
You know why? Because Mr. Fix had family that was near his house, and Mr. Fix ended up going to see his family, and they said that one of the guys found out where he lived, and they had to move him for his safety.
You recall the Oasis Red Bull Tavern? Yes. When you were up there? You went there, and there was some information that came out, I think, in the federal trials, a dispute about whose idea it was to draw out a handwritten map. Can you tell me about the map?
Oh, I mean, it was drawn. So, I mean, what more? People sat down, they scoped stuff out, they sat down, and then they drew a map.
Yeah, but there's there's a classic photo that has been released where it shows Adam Fox like drawing the map, and I'm assuming Dan took that photo.
Yeah, Dan sure did.
And that was released publicly even during the first, I believe.
That guy right there.
That one. That's all. It's been all over the news. So that's Exhibit 22.
Over here. Where's my picture? Why did he get a picture of me at the table while this was going on? I did nothing but sit there. I didn't talk. I did not help. I ate the food that he bought me with the money provided by the FBI.
So that was Exhibit 22 in your prelim. But I think more in the federal trial that I sat through, and then I listened to the second trial over the phone line. You could dial in and listen to the federal proceedings. Okay. I don't recall which trial it was, but there was an effort by the defense attorneys, specifically Mr. Fox's attorney, to portray this drawing of the map as being directed by Dan. What would you think about that?
I can't answer that. I know I was right there for the thing. I was in my head a lot. I mean, I had to think, you know. I need the burger.
It's all right. So
Oh, here's another one, by the way, just real quick. There's Adam at the boat launch.
That one's out there in the press all over the place too.
Right. I'm aware of that. What I'm saying is, where's my picture where I'm looking across because I'm so fucking involved. I was with these two. It was just us three. Where the fuck is my picture? I wasn't looking across. I was not involved, even when I was with them. The only thing I did was take that stupid video because I felt that I had to do something to get out of there alive. And again, if what I had to do was take a video, I would do it again.
So this Exhibit 27 from your prelim, it was also introduced in the federal trial. And just to clarify, I mean, you were here when this picture was taken. Dan took this, right? Yep. And there was some marijuana smoking at the lake.
Yeah.
And some other lady showed up there.
Yes.
Do you recall that? Do you know who that was?
Come to find out, she was the granddaughter of a judge, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. I just recall like some other lady showed up there. But I guess what I'm getting at is in this photograph, like Adam's looking through something. What is he looking through? Do you recall?
Binoculars.
So there's a discrepancy in some of the testimony that I've seen where, like Adam Fox, I believe, was claiming that is just his hat, and he scrunched up his hat to look through a tunnel, and he actually did not have any type of device that he was using to enhance his vision.
That is awesome. So
did you recall that at all?
I don't. I naturally assumed it would just be binoculars, the way he's holding his hands and he's looking across at a distance. I do understand the concept of closing off the peripheral.
Yeah.
You can bring things up. It's really fucking cool. But looking at it, that does look like cloth, and like that would end up being a baseball cap.
And it's my understanding that was a hat, and it wasn't anything enhancing his optics.
Wow. Okay.
You weren't aware of that?
Nope.
Okay.
No, I actually walked away while they were doing this. I stayed away. I didn't know what to do, man.
So it's my understanding the nighttime surveillance on September 12th, you did not get invited to go on that.
Correct.
Do you know why you didn't get invited to go?
Well, according to Adam, I'm not down for the extremist shit. So why would I even know about it? You know?
Okay. So you were at the training on the 12th and the 13th.
Yep. Did not do any overnights. I was just there during the day for the training, came home to my kids.
And went back to Luther?
Yep.
And whose property was that?
Ty Gardens.
Okay. And so you weren't invited to go on the nighttime recon. Did you leave on the 12th prior to them leaving?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe they had a meeting later that night and then they left.
Okay. And then from the testimony I've seen come out in the state case and even the federal case, after they went and did their nighttime surveillance of Governor Whitmer's vacation cottage on Birch Lake, they came back, and at some point in the early morning hours, they had a Circle of Trust meeting.
Okay.
Do you know what the Circle of Trust meeting was all about?
Only through what I've heard through this. I didn't know about anybody else, dude. I only knew about Dan and Adam. So anything related to other people, I did not know until all of this went down. So
were you even on the property there in Luther when the Circle of Trust meeting occurred? Or
if I was, I wasn't aware that it was going on at the same time. So I can't answer that.
And you obviously wouldn't be on any of the audio recordings of the Circle of Trust meeting.
100%. I'm not at any of their meetings.
Okay.
Any of them.
And you know now having the 2 terabytes of digital information, all the videos and audio discovery that's been turned over to your attorney and then to you, all of that information that you now have, did you understand what was going on now? Do you know now what they were contemplating during that Circle of Trust meeting?
I still don't. The Circle of Trust meeting is not that significant to me, so I don't care much about that.
Uh-huh.
I know now about supposedly the full intent of these people, which I do not agree that they had true intent to do this.
What was your interaction with the other FBI informants, such as like Jenny Plunk or Steve Robeson?
I didn't know them. Steve, actually, so I come to find out who this guy was later, obviously. So at that training, I did talk to him for a little bit, but only because the other guys took what the FBI is calling an improvised explosive device over a hill, and I'm scared shitless of explosives. Like, I'm glad there's people that get into that stuff. I want nothing to fucking do with it. It scares the crap out of me. So I actually went and hid behind a truck, and Steve was sitting on the tailgate, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, they're doing something over there." He's like, "Yeah, nothing's gonna come over here." I was like, "I don't give a fuck, dude." It's like, I'm hiding behind your truck. So that was the extent of that.
So, were you present when undercover FBI agent Red showed everyone a video of a truck exploding?
Nope.
You never saw that video of the truck exploding? You probably have it in your digital 2 terabytes. It's probably there, but you haven't seen it.
If it didn't pertain to me, I typically run by things real fast unless I'm in there. And so with these, I can actually search Eric Molitor or specific events that I would have been part of.
But you're aware now that undercover FBI agent Red played a truck bombing video for them?
I'm not. I mean, if you're telling me, then now I'm aware. But if you're not telling me, then no, I'm still not aware.
Those facts have come out in court that he actually played a truck bombing video for Adam, either September 12th or the 13th, which was a mock-up of an explosion that the FBI made for that purpose. You were never aware of that?
No, I was not aware of that.
Can you tell me what happened on October 7th, 2020, or shortly before that, when you were invited by Adam to go with him and Dan to go get some free gear?
Adam told me that there was this guy downstate that we could go get free gear from, right? I'm like, well, what type of gear? He says, well, tactical shit. Fuck, that's pretty cool, right? But based off of what happened on my first ride that seemed so innocuous, I mean, obviously I had something inside of me saying, don't fucking do it, guy. And so I had told him that, I didn't have money to go, which was the only thing I could think of. And now I know it's stupid because he was telling me it was free gear, right? So I'm telling him, no, I'm waiting on the money from the boss. And he knew how my boss paid because it's subcontract. So he gets paid when the contract's up. So you don't always get your money when you think you should. And so I was telling him, man, I ain't got money. I can't go. I'm still, battling with him about getting my money. So I did not go. Well, come to find out, we know what happened now.
So, well, yeah, you found out later that day, right?
Oh my gosh, man.
Where were you on October 7th?
I was here with my family. We're having a family get together.
Okay. And like, what time of the day on the 7th did the FBI show up here?
I would say around midday, early afternoon.
Okay.
Something like that. So that day, I had some moonshine from a colleague when I was in Kentucky. He gave me some, and I had been imbibing a little bit, and I was high as fuck. So I remember a lot of fear and a lot of people. It was.
And were your kids here?
Yeah.
And your mom?
Yeah.
How was that experience for them?
Terrifying. This is your sanctuary, and to have the government come crashing down. Because who do you go to? Who do you say I've been wronged? Who these people stole my shit. They took my family from me. They fucked up our lives. Who do you go to when the people you go to are the ones that did it to you? It's terrifying. My mom for how long was driving around, she'd see a cop and have a fucking panic attack. I'm not impressed.
So what was going on in your mind when you sat down with the FBI afterwards and they interviewed you?
Oh, no shit. I do remember this. I thought that I would explain my side of the story. They'd be like, fuck, you're retarded. Get the fuck out of here. And I was going to come back to my kids that night. That's what I thought was going to go on. Because I knew my level of involvement was so minimal. I purposefully would not commit to anything just so I could stay, with them just a little bit, just to get things for myself or find out more if I needed to.
So during your preliminary examination, they didn't play any of your recorded interview. I'm sure it was recorded at your preliminary examination. Do you know why that is?
I don't know why they do the things they do and or don't do anymore.
Okay. And how long were you incarcerated before you bonded out?
3 months.
3 months, you said, and it was at the Antrim County jail?
Yep. Really good people up there, by the way. I do want to say that. Really, really good people.
And what, like, did you have to get a bondsman to get you out of jail? I'm assuming.
Penny Genema,
Yeah.
on her own, put up the majority of the money. My family only had to come up with $2,500.
And
She
who is
did it
that?
because she believes that I'm innocent.
And who's Penny Genema?
Penny Genema is a friend of Bill Barnett.
Okay.
She knows my aunt, so there's some distant connections. But
And what would you tell people who believe that you're an extremist or a domestic terrorist?
I mean, they're welcome to their opinions. I would just hope that because I know what it's like to get information and believe it right off the bat. It's very easy to do, especially when things are funneled to you. Facebook's one of the worst things that has ever happened to us. The social media in general is just terrible. I don't blame them for feeling the way that they do. I would just like them to be able to hear my side of it as well. And, see the things I was doing previous to this. Know that I'm not a threat, that I'm actually pro-government, that I'm pro-police, law enforcement, that I'm anti-violence. I mean, if you only knew. Dude, yes, very, very... I would just tell them, like, hey, do you, I guess. It's your right to feel how you want based off of what you get.
So you've obviously, I'm assuming, were provided a copy of the tabulation of what they seized from your home here when they raided you. And
I couldn't find it if I wanted to.
And you had an AR-15, is my understanding, that was seized, and other firearms. Like how many firearms did they seize here?
I want to say 7 or 8 of mine, and then 3 of hers.
Okay. And in addition to that, they found some flex cuffs. Can you tell me what flex cuffs are?
Flex cuffs they're like zip ties, but with a purpose. They are specifically meant to restrain people. They're super cheap. They're durable. You can carry a lot of them, and it's not excess weight, as opposed to handcuffs, which are also bulkier and noisier.
What would be a civilian purpose for owning flex cuffs?
Okay, well, I'm not just a regular civilian. I was also working for private security for U.S. Marshals. I was being talked to about eventually even going overseas and doing like real man shit and fucking cool. So that's kind of a part of the gig. Also just being a part of the militia, right? If I was doing something for community work, working alongside police, not against them, and I was helping to restrain people or they needed support, boom, I got you. It's a part of the gig. You don't go play basketball without your shorts and a ball.
So were those things the flex cuffs things that you brought with you to like the protests that you went to? No.
I actually had them staged in my car. Staged means that they were clipped, but they were not shortened yet. So they were ready to go on somebody and get shortened. But that was for Kentucky. Because I asked my boss, like, what all do I need to take? He said, take everything in the fucking kitchen sink. I'm like, all right, man. So, I mean, if you would have opened my trunk, you'd be like, what the fuck are you doing with all this shit? Well,
So were the flex cuffs things that were issued to you by your employer or things you purchased yourself?
No, self-funded.
And how easily available are flex cuffs to purchase?
Online stores. So Army Navy surplus stores, I can get it without even using a credit card. I can buy them with cash. They're very easy to get. Okay. They're not regulated.
And how familiar are you with all of the unindicted co-conspirators that are listed on the Attorney General's?
Just real quick, I never offered the flex cuffs like they said in my bind over. I never offered anything to these people. I had 2 night vision binoculars, a whole bunch of shit. If I wanted to help these fuckers, I had the stuff. Never offered any of this crap. And if you have that list of my items, then you can see what all I had, and I could have helped if I wanted to, man.
You're talking about the tabulations?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, I'm sorry. What was your question again?
How familiar are you with the unindicted co-conspirators that are listed in your case?
I don't know what that means.
So this is a document. It was the People's Memorandum of Law to use co-conspirator statements at the prelim.
Okay.
Your attorney probably gave this back to you. It was filed quite a while ago. It was filed on August 15th. So
what is an unindicted co-conspirator?
So I'll just show it to you. So this is the list of the state and federal defendants, and then below it is a list of unindicted co-conspirators.
Then just to answer right off the bat, I'm not I'm not familiar with any of these guys. Like I said, I know of the Null brothers. I know of Adam. Solomon Clark. I've met him before. Jeremy Dieter. Yep. Amanda Keller was Adam's girlfriend at the time. I know some of these names now. Oh, Brian didn't get indicted?
You met Amanda Keller, Adam's girlfriend?
I think, yeah. I was in presence with her a couple of times.
But you looked at the list. Have you ever met Jeremy Dieter?
I never met him personally, but he is somebody that I'm very aware of. He's very active in the militia communities and the free American communities. Yeah.
Have you watched any of his like Freeman reports?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the dude's good.
And his friend Thomas Leger or Ledger, who does those podcasts with him. Are you familiar with him?
I would have to be. I probably heard his voice, but as far as like, oh, that's Thomas, like, no.
Okay. And how well did you know like Brandon Caserta or Dan Harris?
I didn't know any of these guys.
Okay. So, but you met them at the like September 12th and 13th.
That would be it.
Meeting or trainings.
Yep.
And that's your extent of even meeting any of those guys.
Yeah.
Including Ty Garbin.
Yep.
And Caleb Franks.
Yes.
Okay. And what about like your co-defendants? Did you like William and Michael Null?
I know of them only because of the militia activism that I've been involved in.
And that one meeting,
involved in.
Training.
Yep. So I know of them.
All right. And what about the defendants, the Wolverine Watchmen down in Jackson County, Morrison, Musico, and Bellar?
I didn't know anything about them until this.
Okay.
In fact, I didn't know about them until I was in jail reading through stuff. That's when I heard. I know Adam mentioned the Wolverine Watchmen to me before, but he had also mentioned his own militia he was trying to start and like 2 or 3 other militias. And again, me not wanting to be a part of militias, I don't give a fuck about names. So after you had your bind over hearing in December of 2022, did you see the press release that was issued by the Attorney General? I did. Yeah.
Okay. And here, I'm going to hand it to you.
Thank you. I was going to ask.
So,
I was never a part of Wolverine Watchmen.
Well, that was my question, first of all.
Yeah, no.
Can you tell me the date on that?
December 7th, 2022.
And what's the title? What's the title of that?
In bright yellow, it says Wolverine Watchmen bound over in Antrim County. None of them were Wolverine Watchmen.
So the yellow is a highlighter. I highlighted that just for myself when I was putting together a few different exhibits to bring with me. And so the defendants that were charged in Antrim County, that would be yourself, so Eric Molitor, Michael Null, William Null, Sean Fix, and Brian Higgins. Those 5 individuals. Were any of them members of the Wolverine Watchmen, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay.
I never was, and to my knowledge, they were not either.
So how do you feel about the Attorney General insinuating that you were a member of the Wolverine Watchmen?
The same as I do about every other aspect of them painting a narrative that's bullshit. It's unfair, it's lies, and it's bullshit. They're hurting people. They're hurting people to further their own careers, and I can tell you that right now because Sunita Dodamani is actually going to the U.S. Attorney's Office. She's off this case on the 17th, so she's got her little step up.
What do you mean by that?
Off of other people's pain and suffering. So they need all of us to be guilty, right? If the more W's you get in your column, the higher you're going to move up as far as being a prosecutor or an attorney of any kind, right? Nobody wants a loser to work in their office. So the harder you push, the better you are at manipulating circumstances to get the outcome that you want, regardless of whether it's truthful or justice or anything. That's what I mean. These people do not give a fuck about actual people. They care about themselves furthering their own careers, just like Dan did by trying to do the shit. So in my head, so he can do his gun thing, Sunita, so she can move up to a higher position. All this stuff, man. This is painting a narrative. They took idiots crawling around in the mud and made them dangerous.
So you said Dodamani is done on the 17th. What do you mean by that?
I mean, she is. Can I have a second?
Yeah.
This isn't part of the official stuff, so I can show this one to you. Oh, this is yours too. Watch out. She is moving to a different position with.
And I always butcher her name, her first name especially. So, Saida?
Sunita.
What was that? Sunita Dodamani.
I believe so, yes.
And she is the lead prosecutor with the Attorney General's office in your case currently, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And what are you looking at right now?
Right here. And then that's her to the attorneys. And look how she talks about the other people in the prosecutor's office coming up. We'll find them delightful too, you condescending cunt. That one pissed me off. It's like, this is a game to them. This is a game. My life's not a game. I'm not a pawn for you.
Okay, so hang on just a second. Can you see that in there?
We'll find them delightful. And that's just one instance of them being condescending and playful.
So this is an email sent January 4th of 2023 from Ms. Dodamani to all the defense attorneys in the Antrim County prosecutions, indicating that she's going to withdraw from your case because she's leaving to work for the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Michigan.
Yes.
Starting after MLK Day, January 7th, 2023.
A promotion.
How do you feel about that?
I'm upset about it. Why would you, if this was so serious and so personal to her, why would she not see this till the end and then move on to her new position? Does this not truly matter to her? It was only a stepping stone. She got what she wanted. She doesn't need this anymore. So now she's going to pass it off to other people to play with and see, test your hand on it. Because we're the lowest of the barrel in this case, right? So she doesn't care now. She's got what she wanted. She made herself look tough by talking back to judges and this is who we want. We want a fighter. Well, she got her promotion. I'm upset that we are pawns for them.
What was your impression about Barry Croft when you met Barry Croft?
The dude's nuts. The dude is fucking insane. He sucks with a weapon. He can't do anything right. I'm sorry, man. I'm normally not this mean about people, but there is nothing about this guy that was beneficial. He ran his mouth. Nothing but violent stuff. Carrying loaded weapons with his finger on the fucking trigger. Flagging people, which is where you bring the barrel around people. The dude... he's an accident waiting to happen. He's murders waiting to happen. And I don't mean that like he's going... not in that context. I need to slow down. But he's going to hurt somebody.
So you're aware...
For negligence.
You're aware that Adam Fox and Barry Croft were recently sentenced to federal prison.
Yes.
Adam Fox for 16 years and Barry Croft for 19 and a half or so.
Yep.
What do you think about their sentences?
I don't think any of these guys should actually be in prison. There was no crime committed. The only crime that was committed was the one that is a crime because of a swipe of a pen. That's it. There was no victim. People had talked. They did some things in furtherance, but the furtherance was pushed by undercovers and confidential human sources. No, these guys should not be in trouble for being stupid. If being stupid is a crime, why the fuck is anybody out?
And you're aware that the Jackson 3 defendants, Musico, Morrison, and Ballar were sentenced. Mm-hmm. I think Musico got 12 years minimum, Morrison got 10 years minimum, and Ballar got 7 years minimum, up to 20. And what do you think about their sentences? They have charges somewhat similar to yours, even though they had a gang membership charge that in addition.
Yep.
What do you think about their sentences?
I feel the same way about theirs as I do any of the other guys. I do not think that they should be in prison. I think the majority of what their material support was that they allowed people to train on their property, if I'm correct on that. And even if it was, if it was proposed to them that this is training to do something, if they're looking for training, it's not easy to get training, by the way, right? So you will fall into groups that talk crazy, but you can get some good fucking training from them, right? So I can't speak on what's in their head. Just maybe I'm saying hypothetically, this is the way I would go about it. You deal with the bullshit to get the good training, right? Well, if you have the property, why would you not host it at your place instead of traveling across the state to do it? Save yourself some wear and tear and fuel, right? So it's a comfort thing. So they allowed people to come train on the property, and they're in prison for that? Like, no, dude, that's crazy to me.
After I went to the sentencing for Musico, Morrison, and Bellar on December 15th.
Okay.
And shortly after that, Michigan's Attorney General Dana Nessel did a call-in press briefing. Are you aware of that?
I'm very aware. If you see something, say something. Really oh, go ahead.
Did you listen to any of that?
No. I think I read whatever was either put out off of that or. Okay. But I did not listen to it.
So it was probably about a half hour long, and if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to play a little bit of it and then get your reaction afterwards.
Okay.
Does that sound all right? So let me see.
Do you have an extra pen so if I hear something?
Sure, you can use it.
Thank you.
So it's a few minutes. It's like 3 minutes long, but
okay.
I think it. We'll just play it and get your reaction afterwards.
This is how the criminal justice system works, right? When you step forward and you say, "I'm going to take full responsibility for my actions, and I'm going to cooperate with law enforcement," you get a reduced sentence. I mean, it's literally a factor that the court has to consider and take into consideration in sentencing. These defendants that were sentenced today, I heard one of the attorneys say, well, they weren't made a plea offer. So what? They could have and had every opportunity to do what all defendants have an opportunity to do, which is to plead guilty, to step forward and say, I'm going to take responsibility for these actions. But they didn't. They pled not guilty. They decided to take their cases to trial. And, you know, what happens very frequently when defendants take their case to trial. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, every criminal defendant has the right to a jury trial if that is what he would like. And then the prosecution has to show, you know, beyond a reasonable doubt that each and every one of the elements were met. And that's what occurred here. But what often happens during the course of that trial is that lots and lots and lots of evidence comes out that now the court hears and the court considers. And oftentimes that is evidence that is incredibly damaging to those defendants. So, of course, by the court now hearing these, you know, voluminous documents and, of course, the, you know, hours and hours and hours of multiple witnesses, you know, the judge learned just how dangerous each and every one of these defendants were. Now, by cooperating with law enforcement, the two federal defendants that received lesser sentences, you know, it's a couple things, right? They're admitting responsibility, they're stepping forward, and they're cooperating with law enforcement. And then also, the court is not hearing each and every horrible thing they said and did to take into consideration. So I would say this, you know, the defendants whose cases are outstanding, they have all the same constitutional rights that the defendants who were sentenced today have, and they maintain those rights. And if they wish to have a trial, of course they are afforded that right, and we will do exactly what we did here, which is to present all of the evidence and allow a jury to make that decision. But of course, the risk that you take is that the court will hear about everything you said, everything you did, and all your very dangerous activities, and then utilize that when fashioning a sentence. So I don't know what will happen with the defendants whose cases are outstanding, and I don't know what will happen with the two federal defendants who have yet to be sentenced, but I imagine that all of them are facing a great deal of time because these are incredibly serious actions that they engaged in. And I expect that the federal court and that the Antrim County court will take that into consideration when fashioning the sentence.
So what do you think about that?
Well, it's about along the lines of what they do now. So, like she's saying, you can hear it. Maybe it's just me with my bias, but you can hear it when she talks about, well, they do have the right. Like, all right, you can go through the process like it's gonna fucking matter, you little peons. That's the type of shit that irritates me. So, like I said, maybe I'm just hearing that myself, but I hear a tone. So, what she's talking about is fear factor, right? So these people, they're kids. Ty Garbin is young. He's a kid. They scared him. Okay? He didn't plan on doing anything. There's no way that kid... I don't know him. He's just... I don't know, man. I get... They scared kids into taking plea deals. Then part of the plea deal is you had to say certain things in order to get a reduced and lighter sentence. Well, yeah, if this is... That's going to sound good to people who have a lot of years left. You know what I mean? And especially young kids who've never been through the system before or know anything about it. It's scary to have the government come down on you. I mean, they had the feds come down on them. That's huge. And so, saying guilty, do you have to get a reduced sentence? Because what is this about? You're accepting responsibility. Okay, responsibility comes down to intent, right? If you intended, if Ty Garbin, I'm going to use him specifically, if Ty Garbin specifically said, I want to hurt somebody for this reason, that's intent, right?
Well, he testified that he conspired to kidnap Governor Whitmer with Adam Fox, and part of his...
Once he got the plea deal.
Part of his plea bargain was that he'd even testify against you.
Correct.
In your case.
Yeah. What's he going to say? I mean, I'm real interested in this. He gave me a ride up to my car, and that was the extent of our interaction. We didn't talk about anything, so what's he going to say? Like, please, say something. Because everything I've said has not been able to be disputed. They do not have any proof of what they say. Like, I don't care. Have him testify. But they're scaring kids. This is what they're doing. They're manipulating the minds of... He's not dumb, but people are constitutionally dumb. They don't know our system, so they're systematically dumb. Right? That's what I mean when I say he's dumb.
So in listening to what I just played you from A.G. Nussel, she's indicating, it's my understanding Ty Garbin's out now. Yep. He got out around Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
And
isn't that something?
Part of his reduced sentence, I guess you'd call them accommodations, was for his cooperation and pleading guilty early, and what A.G. Nussel says is taking responsibility.
Yeah.
And
sounds good.
Other accommodations in his sentencing were made later on because he was participating with an organization called Parents for Peace, which is a de-radicalization type program for extremists.
Wow. Yeah.
Are you aware of those types of programs?
Very vaguely. This is the only second time I've heard of them. I have not looked into them yet, but talk about some Orwellian shit right there. I mean, they're what? You're an extremist?
So you said, getting back to Ty Garbin, you said you were in a vehicle with him. Was that at the training on September 13th or 12th?
It was a side-by-side. He drove me from the campsite up to my car that was up at the end of his road.
Okay. And I've seen videos that they played in the federal trials of Ty Garbin doing like shooting drills out of the side-by-side. Were you involved in any of that?
Nope.
Okay. Did you see any of that going on?
No, thankfully.
Okay. All right. And so getting back a little bit to this Parents for Peace organization, Michigan has also implemented a program recently called the Center for Targeted Violence Prevention, which is Michigan's version of the Parents for Peace organization, de-radicalization. Do you think that there's any... I mean, do you think were radicalized through the internet or through exposure to social media?
Everybody's radicalized. No matter what. If you're on the left or you're on the right, whatever you look at, you get funneled more. So you keep looking at that, funneled more. Until all you're seeing is the negative of the government doing this, the government saying that, the government coming after you. Oh, I swear I got some proof, man. Listen to me now. Right? All this stuff, yeah, it gets people's hairs up. And like I said, it's left and right. So on the left, you got how the right is doing this against them and da-da-da-da. Yes, everybody's radicalized by social media. Yes.
And she also, A.G. Nussel, indicated that you know, some of the attorneys in the Jackson County sentencing hearings addressed the issue that there were no plea offers at all in the Jackson County cases, and that's why their clients went to trial and ultimately received really hefty sentencing. That's my words, not I'm paraphrasing
Right.
what Nussel was saying. Does that give you? I mean, what's the status of plea offers in the Antrim County cases, as you understand it?
I was told that they're going to offer them. I told my attorney, don't even come to me with them. I'm not interested in any plea deal ever, because that means that I got to say that I'm guilty of something, and I did not do anything, again, with intent. I did not go on the ride knowing what we were doing. I did what I did so I get back home to my fucking kids. I stayed in touch for very selfish reasons. I wanted the steroids. I wanted some military manuals. Thirdly, if there's more going on, I plan on going and doing something. But I would have to have intent to go up there, and that intent would be the crime. Yeah, if we're going to say that there was a crime committed before an actual crime, that would be because I'm goal-oriented to do something negative and bad towards another human being. I was not at any point. In fact, I never talked about doing any violence against Whitmer or Nussel. I'm a big fan of voting people out. You know, if they're pieces of shit, get them the fuck out. And yes, if they've done something illegal, they need to be held responsible. Yeah. So.
Does it cause you any? Are you concerned about the possibility of spending over a decade in prison away from your kids?
Not as much. Hold on. Not as much as the idea. Oh. Sorry. I'm not going to sell out because of fear. And show that to my kids. Fuck yeah, I'm scared of prison. I don't want to go. I didn't do anything to go. I got the fucking government saying I did shit. They're huge. Yes, I'm fucking scared. But
Well,
I can't show my kids to fucking tuck tail. Because you're scared, so the fuck what? Stand up for what's right. You know, if you don't, then what is the point? Sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize to me. I'm just looking at the parallels between, you know, Ty Garvin's situation where he early on turned state's evidence against everyone and cooperated and participated in de-radicalization programs, and he's out with his family now. And the words from the Attorney General in that recording we both just listened to are pretty, in my opinion, she's trying to be persuasive with her words and imploring the defendants that still have cases outstanding, which we all know that the only defendants with cases outstanding are the Antrim defendants.
Yep.
And she's not just insinuating, she's flat out saying that you're going to get really hefty sentencing from the Antrim County judge if you don't plead guilty. And it's like she's saying it's a foregone conclusion that you're going to be convicted.
Is it? And is that the system then? It's already decided that I'm guilty? Of course it is. You're guilty until proven innocent anymore. That's just how it is.
I mean, that's my interpretation of the words from her that we just listened to, was that in her mind, it's a foregone conclusion. If you go to trial, you're going to be convicted.
Yep.
And what do you think about that?
I think that was directed at us. And I don't think that was really put up for other people necessarily for any other purpose than fear. Let other people know, you know, it's a way to divert people from even thinking about doing this stuff. And that's what this is actually about. And they've said it before. We need to give them hefty sentences to stop other people. So these guys are getting heftier sentences for the possibility of a future crime. How are these people not victims now? Because they're being punished for something that somebody else hasn't done yet. How is that not a fucking victim? So they can play their game. They are wrong. Our government is fucked up. Their policies are fucked up. They create this type of stuff. People are always going to be upset one way or another, but to actually radicalize people, keep doing what you're fucking doing. You know, they do not listen to the people anymore, and and if they do, then there's apparently a lot more of that side. I don't know how else to say it, but to come out and say that stuff, that's directed. That's letting us know, like, do it or else. Or else what, man?
So, like we talked about previously, you've been an advocate of Second Amendment rights for a long time, and have you come to terms with the fact that there's a possibility, if you're convicted, well, it's not just a possibility, but if you're convicted, you'll never be able to own a firearm ever again?
Yeah, I know what they say the laws are and whatnot. I don't think it's their right to tell me that I can and can't have it right now, or even before this. That's not their option. It's not their right. So even after this, it's still not their right. If I've done something bad enough that I cannot have my rights, do you know what unalienable means? I can't give it to you. You cannot take it from me. It is inherent in the fact that I exist. So if I have a right to self-defense, and part of self-defense would be able to unilaterally or excessively defeat an opponent who's trying to do me harm, then I require a firearm when firearms exist. So they don't have the right to tell me, even if I do get convicted and come out, that I cannot have a gun. Now, I'm not stating I'm going to. I'm saying they don't have the fucking right to tell me that if somebody's done something bad enough that they have to have their rights stripped from them, take their life. Capital punishment, whatever, which I'm also against. But if people are that bad, that's what needs to happen, because they're more than just a danger to society. They are a huge menace to society. Pedophiles, people who actually murder for no fucking reason except for they had $1 on them. I wanted that fucking $1. Like, dude, go fuck yourself.
But should those people be able to possess a gun because of their unalienable? How was that word?
Yes, unalienable. Yes,
unalienable.
Yep. I don't.
A murderer should be able to still possess a gun
after he still alive?
Yeah, after they get out of prison. If they get out of prison, don't get a life sentence, should they be able to go back and possess another gun?
This is going to sound really fucked up. I do not have the option of saying that person doesn't have the right, because God says everybody has this right because you exist. I cannot say they do not have the right to carry a gun. They exist. They can carry a fucking gun. They can drive a tank. So let's go back to that.
So where does God say that someone has a right to own a firearm?
It's not about the tool. That's why I said earlier, it's not about the gun. It can be a hatchet. It can be a sword, whatever.
But God said that people have an unalienable right
to self-defense. To self-defense.
Okay.
So if the bad guy has a gun and I do not, how am I supposed to defend myself against this threat? The only way to mitigate something like that, like I said, unilaterally or excessively, is to have a firearm and training of your own. I'm not one of those people that's just like, let's go get a gun just to have something in my fucking pants. There's training that goes into it. You don't drive a car without training. You don't cook without training. A firearm is no fucking joke.
So, what do you think? I've watched and I've read a little bit of, but I watched a video presentation of Governor Whitmer's victim impact statement, which was a video during the sentencing of the Wolverine Watchman down in Jackson in December. And, she explained how this whole situation really affected her life and her family. And do you think that she had some legitimate concerns?
I think anybody who hears about the stuff being plotted against them or whatever, yeah, of course that's going to be scary. You kidding me? I'd be scared shitless too. You wouldn't know if going around this corner is where you die, that corner is where you die. Is this person I'm talking to here to actually do me harm? Like, yes, that would be terrifying. When you put yourself in a fucking spotlight, there are certain things that are going to come along with it. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not justifying bullshit rhetoric, man. But people have the right to talk. I don't need to agree with it. They have that right. I don't like it. So what? I don't make the fucking rules. Yes, she's scared, but isn't that weird? Because at first she's like, oh, I'm not scared of nothing. Nothing's going to fucking stop me. She went right out afterwards and was going door to door fucking campaigning for Biden. She's so afraid of somebody just popping her out of the fucking blue, she's going to go door to door for it to happen? No, dude. She's not scared, or you are scared. Stop lying. Be a real human being. it's okay to show vulnerability. Maybe people might appreciate that. You might look more human instead of a fucking robotic bitch.
So, I guess to conclude, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you believe people need to know about you or this situation? Anything else that?
As far as I go, I'm a family guy. Like that's it. All I want is a future for my kids. My future is them. So when I do the things that I do, it's to set things up for them so they don't have to do the fight. Because if I didn't do anything and then they had to step up when they were old enough and smart enough to do it, then they'd have to start at the steps that I'm at right now. We're already far behind the ball. So far behind the ball because we haven't gotten involved. So here I am trying to set it up so that when they can come in, because as the individual, you're responsible, man. You're responsible, dude. I'm responsible for everything that happens in America by being an American citizen. Yes, we have representatives, the people that say, hey, they're here for, we have people to do that for us. No, they're there to listen to you. If you're not talking, they're going to listen to somebody. And then you're going to bitch that they're not doing what you want. You need to get involved, man. Everybody needs to get involved the right way. Learn your system, why it's in place the way it is. Use it the right fucking way. It's really as easy as writing, emailing, and sending letters to these people and calling them and letting them know this is how I feel. Get petitions. Do the boring, stupid shit that nobody else wants to do. And then disseminate that to people so that you can inform people. Cite sources. This is what I want to get to people, if anything, because this is what I was trying to do in the first place, was try to get people involved in their communities. If anything, start at home. We're not going to change America. Not from here, not right now. What I can do is go to my Board of Commissioners meeting. I didn't even know about the BOC until the two-way resolution. I'm like, wait, I can do something in a local government to be heard? What the fuck? Mind blown. Why don't people know about this, man? Because we don't get out there. It's nobody else's responsibility to tell me how to conduct myself in my country. I need to do this for myself and for my kids. So I guess there's a big one there. I'm not violent. I'm very anti-violence. It's the last thing that I want. Nobody wants to go there. And the ones that say they do have never experienced real violence. They're fucking stupid. And get away from those people. For sure, because they will hurt you. I'm not anti-law enforcement or government. I love our system of government. I just wish that more people get involved. So we come back to that. I appreciate law enforcement because if it wasn't for them and their tactics and ways of finding out who did what legitimately, we would have... It just wouldn't be as good. Maybe we need law enforcement. I don't know how else to say it, man. We need these people. But they also need to know that they need to stand up for the Constitution, part of their oath, right? So if something's unconstitutional, man, I don't know. I don't know how they do it because that's their job. But something needs to be reformed there. But we still need them. I don't know. Just take care of you, your family, your friends, and your community. It'll spread from there if everybody does this.
So, just to follow up a little bit, what a lot of the I guess the chats and the recordings from Adam Fox and others in the federal case and even the Jackson County case, there was constant discussions of the lockdown orders over COVID were tyrannical and it was tyranny. Yep. What is your definition of what amounts to tyranny?
Tyranny to me is when anybody feels that they have the right to dictate how you express your rights, right? No matter how you express them, you have your right to express them however you want, right? So for somebody to say that you... Oh, this isn't even really about rights, I guess. You can't go see your loved ones in a elderly home, for example, right? How many people died not being able to see their families? Oh, you can see them through the fucking window. Dude, that's terrible. How many mom and pop shops got closed down because they weren't subsidized by the government? Here's another thing. Why is the government getting involved in our smaller aspects of commerce where they should not do? They should not be involved in that either. It hurts us because these places, when you can't have people in there. Well, I don't get money from you. Well, that's because you don't play the game we want you to play. So you don't get the money. So now you're fucked. This is tyrannical.
So that's tyrannical.
When you take 100-year-old
is there different levels of tyranny?
I I would say any infraction is an
severity?
infraction. I guess that's subjective. Yes.
I guess what I'm getting at is like, people think they need guns to protect themselves from tyranny.
Yeah.
And, like preppers want the ability to use their guns if the government becomes tyrannical. But what amount of what you would deem to be tyranny is not enough to actually take up arms against the tyranny?
That's a great question. I love that. So the original founders that everybody likes to talk about, oh, they do this, they do that. You know what they waited for? Till the government was coming and taking their guns and their cannons from their property. That is what happened. So up until then, there was talk, there was this, there was that. People were like, hey, man, just don't do it, just don't do it. So there was banter back and forth. At this point, when they tell you, okay, bump stock, for example, it's a piece of plastic. Dude, if you ever used one, which I have not, I just understand them, they're not that effective unless you really train. But then try to use
the
them
Las
under
Vegas,
stress.
the Las Vegas shooters killed like 50-some people with a bump stock.
Oh, with a bump stock, he killed 50 people with one gun that had a bump stock on it. There was multiple guns. One of the guns had a bump stock on it. So because this item was a part of a weapon, now it is the sole cause. It was the individual with his intent. It was him. It had nothing to do with anybody else. So why do law-abiding citizens have to not have a bump stock when I can more effectively and quicker pull the trigger with my finger? I'm not a fan of them. I don't like them, but it's not my business. If you want it, get it. To me, it's a fucking toy, and a gun's not a toy.
But President Trump is the one that signed an executive order that
Yes,
prohibited those.
Yes, he did.
So
the ATF even said, no, that's not a machine gun. Trump said, you better do something about that.
So Trump restricted that. So you think Trump is tyrannical?
That's a tyrannical act. To no infringement, right? I know you've heard this, but no infringement, man. So that's an infringement. Anything that limits what you can and cannot have is an infringement. They don't have the right to tell me how I protect myself. I will protect myself and my own any fucking way. Dirty, I don't give a shit. If somebody's after my kids, I don't care how I end you. Like, you know what I mean? So yes, I want my gun. That's
all right. Well, I really appreciate it, and I think we covered quite a bit of ground, and I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for coming. It's nice to actually be heard for once.